Ladies and gentlemen, this is TVP World. You're watching another edition of Break the Fake, where we debunk fake news and combat false narratives. I'm your host, Benjamin Lee, and let's get rolling. Now, Russian hackers keep proving one thing. If a system exists, someone with a Russian passport will eventually try to sneak their way into it. In Poland, one of them was arrested on suspicion of attempting to access the databases of several Polish companies. That alone shows how far the job market has sunk in Russia. Even hackers are running abroad for better opportunities. Only the work is illegal and the exit interview happens in a detention cell. Polish law enforcement says the detainee practiced the usual Russian cyber diplomacy. He tried to break into corporate systems and even tried whipping out some credentials he clearly invented on the spot. The only thing missing was an ID card from the GRU Department of Improvisation and Randomness. And yeah, it sounds like a joke, but it matches the daily routine of a Russian hacker group. The country logs up to 4,000 incidents every day, and around 1,000 are real threats. The targets are usually critical infrastructure, from energy to telecoms. Russia has turned itself into a spam bot that keeps hitting attack across the European Union. In Poland, that button gets pressed the most. Polish security services openly say most attacks come from pro-Russian groups. Sometimes they pose as the dark web, and sometimes as, we have nothing to do with this. Now, the situation is a 6 a.m. alarm that everyone hears loud and clear. A hacker with a Russian passport slips into systems in one of the EU's biggest countries, then ends up arrested like a side character in a corporate farce. But this is no longer one country's problem. It is a test Europe has to handle together. And practice shows the best way to counter Russian cyber aggression is not to sit and wait for the next hit. It is to stop them the moment they reach for the keyboard. If anyone still thought the Russian space program was aiming for the stars, Soyuz MS-28 at the Baikonur complex just delivered a wake-up call. On the eve of the launch, an accident damaged the launch pad. And this is the only facility Russia has for sending manned mission into orbit, so as a result, Russia has lost its ability to launch crewed spacecraft for a while, and the big cosmic breakthrough looked more like a grounded vehicle waiting for repairs.
Двигатели первой и второй ступеней работают нормально.
Since 2022, Russia has been trying to market itself as a high-tech space power, but the figures say otherwise. The number of launches has been dropping every year. In 2024, there were only 17, while the United States racked up as many as 145. China is racing ahead as well, leaving Russian rockets behind as static decorations. Now, if this continues, the so-called space giant of the Russian Federation will survive only as a photo in an old Soviet encyclopedia. Sanctions, the loss of Western technology, and a full-scale war that drains everything are reshaping the industry. Russia's space sector is in decline. The situation shows a simple reality. When Moscow spends its resources on war instead of innovation, the distance between Russia and the status of a real space power grows larger with every missed countdown. Panic has returned to Moscow, and this time it is not over sanctions or explosions. It is the internet, which suddenly collapsed and went offline without warning. Muscovites are reporting mass outages of both mobile and wired internet, and the capital is slipping into a version of daily life that feels suspiciously like the 90s, only without the nostalgia. But there is a silver lining. A tiny piece of the digital world survived. The website from the government's officially approved whitelist. So there's no internet, but Lenta.ru, Soleil Live, and How to Love Your Motherland stay online even when nobody asks for them. This is not the first time, by the way. Total blackouts have already happened in 46 regions, and every time the authorities came up with the same creative excuse. This is all to combat Ukrainian UAVs. In the Kremlin's logic, drones are defeated by pulling the plug on the whole country. The next step is probably turning off the lights because drones are afraid of the dark.
Во многих регионах российских массовое отключение мобильного интернета происходит в качестве меры против атак беспилотников. Как Кремль, есть ли какая-то оценка, эффективно это, приносит какие-то результаты? Или что вы можете сказать по этому поводу?
Я думаю, что, конечно, предметную оценку могут и должны давать только специалисты, наши соответствующие ведомства. Мы же исходим из того, что это считают целесообразным наши силовые ведомства, которые несут ответственность и отвечают за обеспечение безопасности. И принятие таких мер для обеспечения безопасности считаем абсолютно оправданным и необходимым.
Officially, the Kremlin is protecting its people from UAVs. Unofficially, it is protecting them from information. The result is identical. Russia is becoming a place where the internet works only when authorities need you to read something correct. The Kremlin is not fighting drones, it is fighting the helplessness of a system it built with its own hands. Maria Zakharova has once again managed to spark a scandal, and this time it has nothing to do with her usual tirades. It is her personal life instead. Now, in an interview with propagandist Manacherov, she tried to dismiss an investigation into her luxurious lifestyle. You can check our recent episodes for the full story. Now, instead of clearing anything up, her attempt raised even more questions.
Пропаганда вас постоянно пытается уличить в пьянстве. Говорит, что Захарова просто везде, на каждом углу с Лавровым вместе из одной бутылки и так далее. Как вы вообще на это хамство реагируете или уже смирились и так далее?
Ну вот недавно сказали те же источники, те же, кто, как вы сказали, критикует или ненавидит, сказали, что у меня открылся тайный муж. Мы вот на днях 20-летие совместной жизни справили. Я не знаю, как можно в современном мире, так сказать, раскопать тайного мужа, с которым я 20 лет вместе. Мало того, что все слили...
А, это вот он тайный?
Конечно.
А я думал, еще какой-то
Да
появился.
не, он тайный.
А какой же он тайный-то?
Ну, а все остальное, что вы спрашиваете?
А лялька, ребенок от кого?
Она была, девочки мои,
не важно,
очень не повезло, кем она только не была.
Да.
Писали, что она родилась в Штатах, и что еще там, и папа у нее американец, и так далее. Там бреда было навалом. Это из той же самой истории. У меня муж гражданин России, все фотографии того, как мы поженились, и то слили в сеть лет 10 назад. Но этого оказалось недостаточно.
So, let's break down her version. Her husband officially works as a top manager at several Zapad, a company that drills wells and does land surveys, and in the past year it landed government contracts worth $5 million. Calling him a manager at a Russian company is a polite understatement. Zakharova's income looks just as interesting. In 2024, she received $40,000 from the Russia Today International Information Agency, and since the beginning of 2025, another 20. Despite her speeches about Europe self-destructing, she liked a holiday in Nice and Paris before the war. These were not business trips, they were personal vacations with her husband. So her denial ended up provoking more knowing smiles than trust. Instead of shutting down rumors, Zakharova confirmed that she knows how to live in luxury and how to hide it. The conclusion is simple. All these refutations only highlight the obvious. Russian propaganda can claim whatever it wants, but the privileged life of the high-ranking officials tell a different story. If your salaries and bonuses let you buy apartments in historic buildings and fight in Nice for a holiday, maybe skip the talk about a modest lifestyle. Maybe just stop the circus and show everyone the real picture. And with that, we conclude this edition of Break the Fake. But for more news, update, and commentary, please stay tuned to TVP World.